Hello again, Steve here, and it is nice to be back. I have been away on assignment on my real job for the last few months and haven't had a chance to really, well, a lot of the time I don't even really have internet because I'm kind of out in the boonies. So I never had a chance to do much of this. So mostly this video is just to say hi and to let you know that I haven't gone anywhere, those of you loyal enough to watch this. And I also wanted to, while I'm saying hi, to pick up on a topic that I recently came across, which might be helpful in the whole, along the lines of the whole point of this discussion, which is improving the quality of our lives through primarily self-knowledge as the foundation of it, and learning more about ourselves to more empower ourselves, right? Now, somebody recently recommended that I sign up for Audible, and the online Audible book service is one of the challenges I have is sitting down to read books, and I do actually drive a fair bit. So with Audible, I can just put my electronic device on speaker and listen to an entire book in the course of, a few days of driving kind of thing, and which is great. So I recommend Audible. And the other thing is the first book this guy recommended, well, he recommended that I go on Audible so that I could listen to this book that he had listened to, which he had actually preempted by saying that it is a very controversial book. So I might be interested in such a book. It's called The Rational Male. It's by Rollo Tomasi, who is a guy I had actually heard of before. I heard him in an interview one time. And he speaks a lot about, well, some people would find it controversial. I don't find it controversial, actually, because here's why I didn't find it controversial. If you're familiar with it, you would understand that he's talking a lot about what would be perceived as the pickup artist nature, the 48 laws of power, the nature of men and the nature of women in a sort of a raw sense, and his analysis. And he's a psychologist, I believe, so he's studied this, and he mostly coming at it from a behavioral observation rather than what people say, what they actually do is where he's coming from. My understanding is just as a summary. I haven't finished it yet. But the reason I say it's not controversial to me is because I become quite accustomed to recognize or to understand, this has happened a while ago, that I've been basically lied to my entire life. So therefore, the mainstream to me now is kind of controversial to me. It's like an insult almost, as you know how, because most of the time I've been lied to, at least, if not overtly, just in a manner of speaking, the way most people are. I mean, religions and governments and all this sort of thing, they're in the business of lying. I mean, everybody is trying to, so many people are trying to enslave other people and into forms of trickery and whatnot, right? So for that reason, it's not controversial. Plus, I have studied a little bit about human nature and so on. So yeah, some of it is different and so on, but I wouldn't describe it as controversial, just so you know, like, I think I recommend it. But mainly what he's talking about so far, maybe he'll get into other things in the end, is the base nature, as he sees it, of men and women, right? I mean, it's like, a lot of it, of course, revolves around the sexual aspect of us. If we think about it, if we look at birds as an example of an animal, what do they do? What do they spend most of their time doing during the productive time? It's things like building nests and making all these songs and so on, which are courtship invitations, and gathering up food for their young and all this sort of stuff. It's about, everything is sort of ancillary to reproducing, right? And human beings are also animals. So he observes the nature of men and women from this view, in a way. And what he finds is that the primary result of the motivation of men is to desire to copulate with as many women as possible. I mean, and you see the result of that is what men have an appetite for, things like pornography and whatnot, right? The equivalent in women seems to be the nature for hypergamy, which is to want to not only find the best men for the support the support of herself and her offspring, but also to have a cadre of men, beta males, you might say, in her support. So she likes to have a bunch of men hovering around her in her support, and to create a hierarchy and a competition within those men to give her resources. And the result of this, you see, is if you go into any mall, you see all these different shops which have the tools of the trade, things like makeup and high heels put a woman's ass on a shelf, and push-up bras and lipstick and eyeshadow and so on to make them look aroused and so on. All of these things are there as attractive devices for the process of hypergamy, to try to find the best male that they could get. Now, this to me is a conversation, a very honest conversation about the animal nature that we are, right? We are animals. Human beings are animals, or mankind is an animal, but we are a very complex animal, for sure, right? So we've also evolved ways to override our natures. And whereas many other animals, like I used to have a cat, right, and it liked catching gophers, and it didn't seem to negotiate with itself as to whether or not it should catch a gopher. That was just its nature, and its nature drove it. If a man was to just be driven by his nature, he would attempt to copulate with as many women as he could, just without any regard for whether that is legal or anything, because that would be irrelevant, right? Just like a cat doesn't concern itself with whether it should or shouldn't jump on top of a female cat that's in heat or whatever. It just does it. And so we have developed ways to stifle or to rechannel or to control our urges. And I would say we've done this through things like religions and moral systems, right, which say that this is right and this is wrong. We're unique in that way. And I would say that's the human aspect of us. Our animal aspect of us is our drives, our desires, but we're able to temper those. And I think, the energy is still there. Even if we've tempered our desire to just jump this or jump that or whatever, we still have that energy, and we can readjust it. And this is the power of religions, moral philosophy, and whatnot, to be able to rationalize, and to either rationalize and or storyify, if you will, to create a story which says that this God says that I shouldn't do this and I should do this. This God says that I should take care of this one woman, and while I'm doing that, not go and have sex with a bunch of other women. And otherwise, I could go to hell or whatever. It's like, we've developed ways, because let's face it, some people are very philosophical, and they'll go deep into the reasons why, and they'll rationalize it right down to the last core. Other people, it's more efficient almost just to have a story about, consequences in the afterlife or whatever. But nevertheless, it creates a team or a tribe of people, a group of people, a society of people, many people working together who are playing off the same rules and being able to channel their bodily reproductive energies into other things. And this is probably why, human beings are so amazingly productive and creative and so on, is that they are able to find out ways to satiate their base desires and then begin to channel them. And this is most notable, especially, I would say, in men, because that's mostly who I can relate to more. When they become over a certain age, like into their 40s and whatnot, their sex drives maybe begin to temper down a little bit. And especially if whatever sex drives they do have are fulfilled by a loving relationship or whatever, then they're able to rechannel some of their energies into more productive things and other productive things. Well, I shouldn't say more productive things, but other productive things. And this is, I remember reading one time Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and I thought it was a rather crazy chapter that he had about, I think the chapter is called Sex Transmutation or something like that. It sounds like almost like an operation that people go through these days. But that's what he's talking about how his observation was that often men wouldn't become successful until they become of a certain age, and they've calmed down their sexual drives, and they are able to then still have that energy within them, but they refocus it on something that is other productive, right? It's still productive it still contributes to the societal reproductive nature, because people, houses get built and all these sorts of things which are necessary for reproduction at large, but they're not specifically just humping or something like that. They're other than that, right? So I think I think there's a lot to be taken from a book like The Rational Male. It's an observation of human nature. It's an observation of especially the animal human nature. I haven't gotten through the whole thing. Maybe he'll get into the other aspect too. Not so much so far the human nature, more the animal nature of men and women. And I think it is a very interesting, a very well argued and a very well presented argument that women definitely have a sexual strategy which drives them, or it's a process of hypergamy to try to get the best producing male, the best, not only best genetics, but best in terms of looking after her and her children. And men have this drive to copulate with as many women as possible, especially the ones who are considered to be beautiful, but it just so happens to be that the beauties, a lot of the beauty aspects of women happen to be parallels to sexual fertility markers, such as wider hips and healthy looking body and healthy looking hair and teeth and whatnot, and all of this skin. Those are all actually, they are sort of almost like a natural way that the animal aspect of us recognizes health. And it's one of the reasons why men are so attracted to the very, very fertile women. And even at certain times of the month, right? So I think it's a very educational book, and I would recommend it. So that the book is called The Rational Male, and it's by an author named Rollo Tomasi. Look it up, have a listen to it. I think it is a great addition to our edification into learning about ourselves, learning about others, and improving the quality of our lives, because the more we know about ourselves and others, the better decisions we can make, I think. Steve here again, great chatting. If you like what I do, please like, subscribe, and share, and we'll talk again soon, I hope. Bye for now.